My brothers and sisters in Christ, nowadays a lot of people come to me, and I know to other priests as well, talking about their concerns of the demonic, of spirits, harassing them, attaching them in their homes. And sometimes, let me be clear, sometimes this can be true. The demonic is real. True possession is more rare, but we are engaged in spiritual combat. The enemy does tempt us, does harass us. And so sometimes there are prudent means by which this can be confronted. However, I think because of, and perhaps it's from a rise in New Age practices, occult, witchcraft, different superstitions, people are more aware of the demonic, of spiritual evil, and yet downplay the strength of God, to whom all of those powers are subject. And this is very important. Some people seem disappointed when they come to me and ask about every little thing that goes bump in the night, and perhaps they think that my answer is dismissive or that I don't believe them, when my advice is always to start with prayer and greater recourse to the sacraments. In fact, the sacraments are more powerful than exorcism itself. Even a solemn exorcism is a mere sacramental. There's nothing more powerful than constant recourse to the sacrament of confession and Holy Eucharist. But it's not being dismissive to say this, because all too often we forget the power of Christ, the power of the strong man, as he refers to himself opaquely in today's gospel. That by the powers of evil, he speaks of the plunder. In a sense, we worry about the things that can happen. And yet, as he says in today's gospel, when a strong man enters, then even when guarded, the house can be plundered. In a sense, Jesus is the one who has come to plunder the kingdom of Satan. All that has been bound by sin and in spiritual chains, Christ brings the path to freedom. If all, from our first parent on until the time of Christ, had been bound by the burden of sin, Christ comes to bring freedom to the captive, to the prisoner, and to us. Even though his conduct is not always with fire and lightning, with the booming pyrotechnics, Christ comes in humility. He comes with gentleness and love, and yet we should never mistake that for weakness. In fact, while we are weak, Christ is strong, and all things are subject to God. During this time, evil is not eradicated because God allows for freedom. Without freedom, love is not possible. Love cannot exist without freedom. And so, his permissive will allows that which is not of him to exist. And yet, this should not be understood as things outside of God's power. All things are in God's power. And so, when we have fear of the things that go bump in the night, when we feel the harassment of the enemy, it should be natural for us to cling all the tighter to Christ, to turn away from our own self-reliance or worldly voices, and instead humbly throw ourselves on the power of Christ that has conquered all, to which all in heaven and earth is subject. Indeed, if Christ is for us, as St. Paul says, who can be against us? May God bless you all.